Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
We're following a crash on US 1 southbound that could have a major impact on your drive this morning. We'll tell you about the delays and the best way to get around them.
And we have a new flood advisory for parts of Nash County. It's the only place that we're seeing heavy rain across the viewing area. I'll explain.
And a man was shot and killed at a car wash in Cumberland County. Coming up, what we know about that investigation this morning.
A chase involving state troopers led to a driver crashing his car into a power pole behind me on Pool Road near Nightdale. Coming up, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the crash.
Good.
Oh,
Go ahead.
your turn. I thought I had both names. Look, we tried to pick one or the other. Apparently, we both thought it was each other. Thanks for joining us here on WRAL News at Fox 50. I'm Chris Lovigan.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. We have a lot to get to this morning. But first, we're going to get over to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. She's tracking a storm cell that's up in Nash County. Everywhere else, it's clear.
It looks lovely. I mean, we have some cloud cover in a few places and a little bit of rain there in Wilson County and into Edgecombe County. But really, this cell has been sitting there in northwest Nash County for hours now. It was happening when I walked in the door very, very early this morning. So we've seen at least 3 hours of some steady to heavy rain. This is what we call a lingering outflow boundary, which is where we have thunderstorms push some air ahead and it kind of gets stalled and it becomes a boundary where we can see rain developing. Now, we don't have much wind out there, so there's nothing to really push this around. So it's been sitting here for hours. We have a flood advisory in effect until 8:30. It's really the community of Castalia that we're talking about. We've seen anywhere from an inch to now. I pulled that up and it was 2.5 inches just about 5 minutes or so ago. And now we're at 2 3/4 of an inch there just north of Castalia. So if you're in that area, it's a rural area, just be very careful. Watch the roads, especially roads that cross a creek. That creek could be rising. And if there's water on the road, be sure to turn around and go the other way. Partly cloudy skies for most of us, but then afternoon and evening storms, some of these could be slow moving with some heavy rain as well. So we'll be watching for that. This is a live look at Wilson this morning. We've had a few showers in Wilson County, but in downtown, things are pretty quiet. Some sunshine there, 75 degrees. We climbed to almost 90 this afternoon. But we get a big drop in humidity over the weekend. I'll explain why. Coming up, Eric.
Elizabeth, we're continuing to follow a couple of headaches for drivers here this morning, the biggest of which right now, at least, is going to be on US 1 southbound at NC 55 outside of Apex. You see, as we zoom in here, this is causing problems both northbound and southbound right now, adding about 10 to 15 minutes to your drive if you're headed down towards Sanford, Pinehurst, or Point South. As we take a live look outside right now, you can see multiple vehicles involved here, including a dump truck. And just in the last couple of minutes, we now have an ambulance on scene here as well. You can see we have multiple lanes shut down here right now. You can try diverting over onto Highway 64 before you start hitting some of these backups. But I got to tell you, looking at the sensors this morning, it looks like that's going to be 6 of one, half dozen of the other in terms of what that'll mean for your drive time here today. We'll let you know as things change out here. The other issue we've been following this morning is down on 95 outside of Dunn. A crash earlier had 95 northbound shut down. We're not seeing that on the sensors anymore. Getting a little bit of a disagreement there, but it seems that is still shut down. Drivers getting diverted off of 95 at East Cumberland Street. That still looks like it's adding about 10 to 15 minutes to your drive there if you're headed north from Fayetteville.
All right, thank you, Eric. WRAL is following breaking news in Wake County. Over 370 people are without power because authorities say a car crashed into a pole there. That crash happened as part of a chase with troopers. Nick Perlin is in the WRAL breaking news tracker on Pool Road near Nightdale. Nick, the power could be out for hours.
Michelle, that's right, and crews are still working as they have all morning to try to restore that power after a car crashed into a power pole, knocking it over and flipping its car upside down. I'm going to get behind the camera just so you can see this power pole right here as I zoom in on it, and you can see it knocked over, and this is what it's been like all morning. I do want to get you to some video from the WRAL breaking news tracker just so you can see how this happened, and you're going to see this car flipped over upside down after hitting this pole on Pool Road. Now, this all stemmed from a chase with state troopers. This chase started in Cary after troopers tried to pull the driver over. At some point, the driver drove off, and when the driver got to this stretch of Pool Road, the troopers are telling me that driver was going around 90 to 100 miles per hour. Keep in mind, the speed limit here is 55 miles per hour. Now, the driver is in the hospital right now and will face charges, according to state troopers. In the meantime, crews are still trying to make sure that they can get power back to the hundreds of people who lost it this morning. We'll stay on top of that part of the story. Reporting live in Wake County, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
We're also staying on top of this story. A man was found shot to death at a local car wash. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us from the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. Kelsey, tell us a little bit more about what you've learned about this case.
Chris, that shooting happened at a car wash on Deaver Circle in Hope Mills, and deputies are here at the sheriff's office now investigating. They are working to find out what happened there. Let's take you to video now from the WRAL breaking news tracker to give you a look at the scene of deputies investigating. Police received a shots fired call about this around 1:30 this morning. When they arrived at the car wash, they found a man shot to death. We're working to find out that man's name. We're also asking deputies if they have any information about the shooter. So we'll be sure to stay on top of this investigation and keep you updated. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Cumberland County.
And now that Wake County commissioners approved the county budget, today the school board will go over what this means for the district. A large portion of your tax dollars is going towards education. The county's approved budget includes more than $702 million for Wake schools. That's a $58 million increase in funding. However, it is short about $5 million of what the district wanted from county leaders. Wake County's total budget is more than $2 billion. That's 10% more money than last year's budget. The budget included a decrease in the tax rate. So we asked what that means for taxpayers.
Does this mean homeowners are paying more in taxes?
Some people will pay more and some will pay less, actually, depending on what your property is valued at.
And Commissioner Chair Shanika Thomas says in a fast-growing county like Wake County, growth doesn't pay for itself. This means the budget adds more funding for ambulances and law enforcement to address an increase in calls. The budget takes effect July 1st.
Today you can get a free gun lock in Durham. The giveaway event is part of the state's annual SAFE Week of action. SAFE stands for Secure All Firearms Effectively. From 9 a.m. to noon today, a free gun lock giveaway is happening at the Durham County Courthouse. Another gun lock giveaway is happening this Friday. That's in Fayetteville. We talked with a member of the Be Smart Gun Safety Group about the importance of discussing this topic. The organization started a gun safety campaign in Wake County schools.
We're normalizing the conversation. Again, it's not a gun ownership issue. It's really just, how do you keep your guns stored? And am I safe and are my kids safe around you in your homes?
Tonight in Raleigh, you can watch a screening of the WRAL documentary Unsafe, North Carolina Kids Dying from Gun Violence. That is at 6 p.m. at the Transfer Co. Food Hall. The screening will be followed by a panel discussion featuring WRAL documentary reporter Kristen Severance and several local leaders.
This morning, opening statements will begin in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial. A jury of 12 and 4 alternates were seated yesterday. President Biden's son is accused of illegally buying and possessing a gun while using drugs. That's a violation of federal law. Biden has pleaded not guilty to the charges. He's been open about his struggles with drug and alcohol addiction. If Hunter Biden is convicted on all 3 counts, he could face up to 25 years in prison.
Vice President Kamala Harris will be back in North Carolina next week. She'll visit Charlotte on Wednesday, June 12th. It's part of her nationwide economic opportunity tour. This is the vice president's 5th visit to North Carolina this year.
Today, Wake County school leaders will discuss how nutrition affects a child's education. Superintendent Robert Taylor and the school board will meet with the Department of Agriculture and other statewide education leaders for a roundtable discussion. They'll also join Kingswood Elementary School students for lunch and a tour of the cafeteria. Today's discussion will highlight the importance of nutritious meals in school and the impact on student health and academic performance.
This morning, a beam raising ceremony is happening for a new high school on the way in Apex. Felton Grove High School is set to open next year. The event to celebrate this milestone is happening at 10 a.m. Now, after remarks from the district leader, a crane will lift the final beam of the building's frame and then put it into place. The friend of a man attacked by a shark is recalling those terrifying moments, the details he says he remembers the most while trying to save his friend.
And it's going to cost you more money to get to your summer vacation destinations. Airline experts share what's behind the rising costs in airline tickets.
And one tiny cell in the northern part of Nash County is creating a flood advisory until 8:30. I'll show you what's happening and why it's just in one spot coming up.
Beautiful blue skies over North Hills to start your Tuesday morning. Look at that. It feels really nice out there as well. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tracking these conditions mostly everywhere except up in Nash County. You said you've been tracking that cell for hours.
It's very interesting because we do have dry conditions everywhere else except this little pocket here north and east of Raleigh. Now we are seeing some showers that keep drifting down toward parts of Wilson and Edgecombe counties, but it's right here in northwestern Nash County, just north of Nashville in the community of Castalia, where we've seen this little system continue to redevelop in the same place. We call that training. It's what we would call an outflow boundary, which is where the thunderstorms push air out, and then it gets to a point where it stops and creates a boundary. And that's where this rain is developing, and just over and over for hours this morning. Flood advisory until 8:30 this morning. Now, they may end up expanding that past that if it continues to rain in that area. We do have, we've seen as much as 1 inch to almost 3 inches of rain there. It is a fairly rural area, so the biggest risk is going to be that we have roads that cross creeks, and the creeks are coming out of their banks there over the bridges. You just want to be very careful.
As you get into your car, tune to WRAL News Plus on your radio in Raleigh on 99.3 FM, in Durham 96.5 FM, and everywhere on 101.5 HD3.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Time now is 8:26. I'm Michelle McConaughey. We are looking really nice here in Raleigh. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tracking the conditions, also tracking some rain up in Nash County.
We have a pocket of rain that's been falling for over 3 hours, and we do have a flood advisory that's in effect for the northern part of Nash County. We've seen as much as 3 inches of rain in the last 3 hours or so. There's a look at the outline of that advisory. Actually, they just expanded it, which I'm not surprised, till 10 o'clock this morning because this band of rain just isn't moving. We now have 3 inches of rain that have fallen there. You just need to be careful of the roads around Castalia, especially just north of the community of Castalia, where we have roads that cross creeks. Some of that water may be rising. Expect another round of some scattered showers and storms that could produce some heavy rain later this afternoon. Eric?
Elizabeth, we're continuing to follow a crash on US 1 southbound, likely to have a significant impact on your day if you're headed that way. It's going to be down here, US 1, near the intersection of NC 55 East Williams Street. This is causing problems both northbound and southbound. Taking a live look out there right now. Things have improved the last couple of minutes. All lanes are now open, but you do have the vehicles involved in this crash, as well as DOT vehicles, State Highway Patrol on the shoulder there. This is going to be adding 10 to 15 minutes to your drive if you're headed that way.
Thanks, Eric. Hundreds are without power after a chase ended in a crash near Knightdale. The chase happened in Cary after a trooper pulled over a driver for speeding. That driver sped off and later hit a power pole on Pool Road. The suspect is in the hospital and will face charges. Duke Energy is working to restore power. And next on Fox 50, a man is dead after a shooting at a car wash in Cumberland County. And next on Today, an exclusive interview with Michael Richards.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
A crash on US 1 southbound is making a major mess of the morning commute. We'll tell you how bad those delays are this morning.
And new right now, the National Weather Service has extended the flood advisory for parts of our viewing area until 10 a.m. I'll show you where the dangers are.
And deputies find a man shot to death at a local car wash. What investigators are trying to determine.
And Wake County school leaders are working to decide how your tax dollars will be spent. How the district is working to use those funds despite receiving less than they asked for. We have that story as well as a couple breaking news scenes we've been following overnight. Thanks for joining us this morning on WRAL News and Fox 50. I'm Chris Lovingood.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Starting out really beautiful here in Raleigh. A live look over Dix Park. The sun is shining, blue skies. A lot of people are seeing that, Elizabeth, but some folks up in Nash County, they're seeing inches of rain.
It's very interesting, this phenomena, which happens occasionally, but not often. It's where we have a boundary that's set up and we continue to have the rain falling in the same place. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of that in just a little while. But right now we're looking at some heavy rain in the northern part of Nash County, a little bit of rain drifting out of Wilson County into Edgecombe County, and there's no rain in any other part of the viewing area. Because this rain has been falling for about 3 or 4 hours now, there is a flood advisory that extends until 10 a.m. The Weather Service just pushed it out from 8:30 to 10, and we have 3 inches of rain that's fallen at least around the Castalia area, maybe just a little bit north and east of Castalia. If you happen to be headed in that area, if you live there, just be very careful for streams rising over roads where it may be flooding. If you see any floodwaters, make sure you turn around and head the other way. Eventually, that's going to fizzle out, but later this afternoon, we will end up with a few isolated showers. They're not going to be moving very fast, and they may do the same thing, dumping some heavy rain, but they'll be isolated at best. Here's a live look at Wilson, where there's some sunshine, 75 degrees with a dew point of 68, so it's very warm and sticky. We'll climb to almost 90 this afternoon. But I'll walk you through a front that'll bring us some rain and storms and then some cooler temperatures coming up. Eric?
Elizabeth, we're tracking a trouble spot on the roads here. This is going to be US 1 southbound right outside of Apex. We've been following this more than an hour now. You can see right down here the intersection of NC 55 East William Street. This crash causing backups both on the north and southbound sides of US 1. As we take a live look out there right now, you can see some of the vehicles involved. We've got a dump truck, multiple other cars. State Highway Patrol as well as NCDOT crews are on scene there as we speak. As we said, this is causing delays both northbound and southbound, likely adding 10 to 15 minutes, whichever side of that road you're on. Some folks are diverting over onto Highway 64. That's about how far those southbound backups are stretching. Again, that's going to be about 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Don't know that that's going to save you a lot of time. You likely just want to stay on US 1 southbound at this point, especially since all lanes are now open. That crash just over there on the shoulder. Looking at what that's going to mean, though, if you're headed northbound, 18-minute delay as you're headed northbound just from Apex. So really something you want to have in mind this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Breaking news. Hundreds of people have been without power for hours in Wake County after a crash knocked down a power pole. The driver is in the hospital, and it stems from a chase with troopers. Nick Perlin is in the WRAL breaking news tracker on Pool Road near Knightdale. Nick, crews are really working to restore power. Again, they've been without power for hours.
And Michelle, we can expect them to be without power for an even longer period of time as this pole behind me has been knocked down all morning. I'm going to get behind the camera and show you exactly what it looks like. And you can see the power lines are down. And as I zoom in here on this power pole, this is how it's been all morning, just knocked over after a car smashed into it. I do want to get you to this video from the WRAL breaking news tracker to show you what this looked like when I arrived at 3:30 a.m. this morning, and you can see a car flipped over upside down after crashing into that pole on Pool Road. Now, we do know, like Michelle said, this stemmed from a crash. State troopers tried to pull over the driver of this car in Cary, and at some point, the driver ended up speeding off and leading them on a chase that ended here on Pool Road near Knightdale. State troopers also told me that driver was going around 90 to 100 miles per hour on this stretch of the road, and keep in mind the speed limit here is around 55 miles per hour. Now, we do know that the driver is in the hospital and will be taken into custody and is expected to face charges. In the meantime, we're still working to find out when exactly power will be restored in this area. Reporting live in Wake County, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
So following this breaking news story, a man is dead after an early morning shooting. This happened in Hope Mills. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us from the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. Kelsey, what can you tell us this morning?
Chris, that shooting happened at a car wash on Deaver Circle in Hope Mills, and deputies are now here at the sheriff's office. They've cleared that scene a while back now, but they're working to figure out what happened there. So let's take you to video now from the WRAL breaking news tracker so you can see deputies on scene investigating. Police received a shots fired call about this around 1:30 this morning. When they arrived at the car wash, they found a man shot to death. Now, we're working to find out that man's name, and we're also asking deputies if they have any information about the shooter. So we'll be sure to stay on top of this investigation and keep you updated. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Cumberland County.
Today, one day after Wake County commissioners passed their budget, the school district will go over what was approved. A large portion of your tax dollars is going towards education. The county's approved budget includes more than $702 million for Wake schools. That's a $58 million increase in funding, but still it falls short $5 million of what the district wanted from county leaders. Today, the school board will talk about how to spend that money. And Wake County's total budget is more than $2 billion, a more than 10% increase over last year's budget. It also includes a decrease in the tax rate. Some homeowners will pay more in taxes, others will pay less depending on the property's value. The budget also adds more funding for ambulances and law enforcement to address an increase in calls.
Today, you can get a free gun lock in Durham. The giveaway event is part of the state's annual Safe Week of Action. SAFE, if you didn't know, stands for Secure All Firearms Effectively. From 9 a.m. to noon today, a free gun lock giveaway is happening at the Durham County Courthouse, and another gun lock giveaway is happening Friday. That's in Fayetteville. Tonight in Raleigh, you can watch a screening of the WRAL documentary Unsafe, North Carolina Kids Dying from Gun Violence. That is at 6 p.m. at the Transfer Company Food Hall. The screening will be followed by a panel discussion featuring WRAL documentary reporter Kristen Severance, plus several local leaders.
It's been more than a week since a Garner family was killed in a tragic accident. A group of Cub Scouts honored the lives of Tyler, Susie, and their 8-year-old son, Miles Campbell. Last night, Miles' scout troop hosted a vigil for the family at Garner United Methodist Church. And those in attendance prayed, they placed flowers at a cross, and they wrote messages of support and encouragement. A psychotherapist shares the best way to help children cope with grief.
Parents need to validate their child's feelings and let them know that it's okay to feel sad or it's okay to feel angry, and just give your child an opportunity to express themselves.
Dr. Uzel says it is also important to pay attention to their children if they isolate themselves during grief. It's okay to start a conversation about what they're feeling.
A Franklin County woman has been missing for 6 days. Look up real quick. Look at your screen. This is Gwen Bunn. She is 75 years old and believed to have a cognitive impairment. Deputies say Bunn was last seen on Pilot Riley Road driving a silver Honda Accord. She has an NC license plate with the numbers JCV 3541. If you have seen her, if you know where she might be, you are asked to call the Franklin County Sheriff's Office.
Fayetteville police are investigating a shooting that left a 64-year-old man dead. Jasper Collins was shot yesterday afternoon at a home on Albany Street. Police say they responded to a report of a shooting and found Collins there. He later died at the hospital. Police say some sort of argument led to that shooting.
WRAL is working to learn what led up to a stabbing in Raleigh that left a man hurt. Police responded to a call on Haskell Drive yesterday night. It's not too far from the intersection of Garner Road and Rush Street in South Raleigh. You're looking at video from the WRAL breaking news tracker. It shows what things looked like as police were investigating. Officers say the man was found with a stab wound and then taken to the hospital, but he is expected to be okay.
President Biden is expected to take executive action today on the high numbers of migrants crossing the border right on the heels of Mexico's historic election of its first female president. The president's executive order would allow him to temporarily shut down the border if the number of illegal crossing reaches 2,500 a day. Homeland Security says there are currently more than 4,000 illegal border crossings every day. That means a shutdown could go into effect immediately.
Families of the hostages still held by Hamas are pleading for an immediate ceasefire deal. This comes after the Israeli military confirmed the deaths of 4 more hostages in Hamas captivity. The parents of American hostage Hirsch Goldberg Poland are asking leaders of Israel and Hamas to act like leaders.
Part of being a leader is you put your people ahead of your own personal self-interest.
The deaths of the 4 hostages were announced as an Israeli ceasefire proposal backed by President Joe Biden was being challenged by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government, who are opposed to any deal with Hamas. Some 125 hostages remain in captivity nearly 8 months after they were abducted by Hamas.
Today, national and state leaders will gather in Durham to celebrate the grand opening of a new EV charging manufacturer. The grand opening of Kempower's North America headquarters gets started at 11 this morning. This is video from a behind-the-scenes tour WRAL took last year. Governor Cooper will deliver a keynote address, and the Consul General of Finland in New York and U.S. Department of Energy Assistant Secretary will also be in attendance. The company is based in Finland and is expected to hire 300 employees by the end of the year. Well, there's a new warning for you if you like having a drink during your flight. The new study showing that alcohol's effect on your body mid-flight may not be as relaxing as you think.
Plus, not all bring your kids to work days get this much attention. One congressman's son stole the show during his speech about Trump's felony convictions.
And we'll take you live out to Raleigh. A look down Fayetteville Street. Hot and humid out there, but plenty of sunshine. Coming up, meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner shares if we'll see any rain later on today. Welcome back. 8:45 on your Tuesday morning. This is a live look over beautiful Clinton. A couple clouds in the sky there, but it is gorgeous. The sun is shining. If you're here in Raleigh, it's the same story. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is tracking a storm cell that was up in Nash County, and you say it's just starting to fizzle out.
It is. We'll watch it very closely in case it begins to redevelop, but this is the weakest that I've seen it so far. We'll zoom in, and you can kind of watch those yellow and orange shaded areas finally beginning to diminish. So it looks like maybe it has just run out of energy. This is what we would call an outflow boundary. So when we had some showers and thunderstorms in the nearby area yesterday, the thunderstorms will send out a gust of wind. And you've probably noticed that in the summertime, if a thunderstorm is coming, the wind starts to pick up. Well, those front, of course, are just a weak boundary that comes through that eventually stops somewhere. And then along that boundary in the atmosphere is a place where we can have showers and storms develop. They don't always sit still like this. Most of the time, we have enough wind across the region to help push them along so they move in a general direction. But sometimes in an instance like this where we have very light winds, they just sit in one spot and dump a lot of heavy rain. And that's exactly what's happened here in the northern part of Nash County. We did end up with about 3 inches of rainfall showing up in some of those red shaded areas. And so that is why we have a flood advisory in effect until 10 a.m. And even though that rain is starting to taper off, the water is still rushing into the creeks. And if you happen to be driving around north and east of Castalia, watch very closely for the roads that cross the creeks. Some of the water may be rising up over the road. And if it is, you want to turn around and go back the other way. We should be fairly quiet through the middle of the day. And then during the afternoon, some more of these cells may pop up. They're probably not going to move very fast. So if 1 or 2 of those pop up over you, you may end up with some just brief pockets of some heavy rainfall. But right now, it's looking beautiful in Fayetteville. Lots of sunshine, 75 degrees, and it is muggy, so not very comfortable. 89 in Raleigh and Durham, and 91 for the high in Fayetteville. Our muggy meter is sitting at steamy right now, and it will stay that way for the next couple of days. But a front comes through Thursday, and that's going to deliver a much more comfortable air mass. Now today, it'll feel more like low 90s with the heat index, but we are definitely looking at the front that comes through Thursday, delivering some cooler, drier air. It may not drop the humidity as much as we saw last Friday, but we could continue to see this for parts of next week, June 9th through the 13th. We have the potential for below normal temperatures. For the next couple of days, just hot and steamy, feeling like summer with afternoon and evening storms. That cold front that comes through Thursday, behind it, we dry out. We're still talking about highs in the 80s, but we should get a little break from the humidity.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. One of the most active volcanoes in the world, the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii, it erupted yesterday. The U.S. Geological Survey says the volcano is in an area that last erupted nearly 50 years ago. The eruption was about 1 mile south of the volcano's caldera within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The area surrounding the caldera has been closed to the public since about 2008. That's because of other hazards, including ground cracking, instability in the crater wall, and rock falls.
Dr. Anthony Fauci was on the hot seat on Capitol Hill as he faced questions over his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. House Republicans pressed Fauci on past COVID restrictions, including that rule Americans should stay 6 feet apart. Fauci told the committee that 6-foot rule sort of just appeared. He then clarified that he meant there were no clinical trials done. Fauci got emotional talking about the threats that he and his family still face.
It's very troublesome to me. It is much more troublesome because they've involved my wife and my 3 daughters.
Republicans also pressing him on COVID's origins. Fauci denied that he downplayed the possibility of a leak from the Wuhan lab in China.
So listen up before you opt for that complimentary glass of wine on your next flight. Researchers saying that drinking alcohol on airplanes is bad for you. A new study found drinking alcohol on a plane combined with sleeping causes heart strain. That's because air pressure and oxygen levels in flight lower than typical conditions on Earth. That's what it's like. Combine that with alcohol consumption and sleep, and you can get an intensified drop in oxygen saturation in your blood. Experts say the best thing to drink while you're airborne, drink some water.
2 new reports allege Russia of attempting to disrupt the Olympic Games with disinformation and cyber attacks. These include fake videos aimed at spreading fear of violence and damaging the reputation of the Olympics. A report by U.S. cyber experts, Recorded Futures, says Russia is the most likely primary state actor to target the Olympics with a disruptive cyber attack. One possible reason? President Putin is angry at the IOC for banning athletes from competing under the Russian flag because of the war with Ukraine.
The Olympics is just a great target if you are Russia. Russia has a long-standing beef with the IOC over the expulsion of Russian athletes for cheating.
And one of the reports says Paris is facing challenges not seen since London 2012, from protests to cyber attacks. It warns that cyber criminals will be attracted to high-profile events and may target the public with phishing scams and suspicious links.
A woman who was pronounced dead woke up at a Nebraska nursing home. Officials say she was pronounced dead after she had been in hospice and nursing staff were expecting her to pass away. Well, while funeral home staff were preparing her body for funeral arrangements, a staff member noticed she was still breathing. That's when they called 911. That woman was taken to the hospital. The local sheriff's office is investigating and says no criminal intent has been discovered at this time.
Musician and former Gossip Girl star Taylor Momsen is recovering after she was bitten by a bat on stage in Spain last week. She suffered that bat bite. Take a look at this video. She posted on Instagram. Her and her band, The Pretty Reckless, were performing when a bat latched onto her thigh. She was singing a song called Witches Burn when the bat latched onto her. And joking with the audience, Momsen said, quote, "I must really be a witch." She says that she will undergo rabies shots for the next 2 weeks. A popular anti-hero returns to the big screen, and a legendary pop singer announces her farewell tour. Here's Ashley Dvorkin with the Hollywood Nation.
Venom returns, Von Furstenberg opens up, and Lauper says goodbye in the Hollywood Nation. Here I go, going down, down, down. Cyndi Lauper is hitting the road one last time. The 70-year-old pop legend announced her Girls Just Wanna Have Fun farewell tour. The 23-city headlining trek is the singer's first run in a decade. It kicks off in Montreal, Canada, October 18th. Lauper's new documentary, Let the Canaries Sing, which explores her life and career, premieres today on Paramount+.
Adventure of my own life.
Diane von Furstenberg looks back in today's First Looks. Hulu released the trailer for Diane von Furstenberg, Woman in Charge, featuring the iconic fashion designer opening up about her life, career, romances, and more. The documentary premieres on Hulu June 25th.
We are
Sony Pictures and Marvel bring back the popular anti-hero in Venom: The Last Dance. The third and final film features Tom Hardy reprising his lead role, facing off with government agents and a massive alien symbiote from Venom's home planet. The action arrives in theaters October 25th.
Eddie, the time has come.
Good stuff happening. That was Ashley Dvorkin reporting. Well, one congressman's son is stealing the spotlight in a now viral video.
Yeah, you may have seen this online. Not all take your child to work days go like this. Representative John Rose was giving a speech about former President Trump's felony convictions when his son sticks out his tongue, rolls his eyes. The representative posted on X, quote, "This is what I get for telling my son, Guy, to smile at the camera for his little brother." I don't know. He took it in stride, but I'm like, that's my kid.
He's like, Dad, you told me to say hi. This is how I do it, and this is what I'm going to do.
Taking that computer away. Nah, don't embarrass him like that.
How much of what he said do you think people heard? Because they were probably all
They were
staring
distracted
at him.
by it. And hey, before we go to break, here are your winning lottery numbers for you. We'll check back in with weather and traffic in just a bit.